Welcome back to our live special report, The New Normal. We continue to answer your questions, so you can submit them right now under the live stream of the show on Facebook. Dr. Daniel Griffin is with us. He's the Chief of Infectious Disease for ProHealth and instructor of clinical medicine from Columbia University. So we want to jump right into the question. And the first one coming from Praveen, saying, shame that masks and health safety became such a stupid political issue. What happens when an even worse pandemic hits? I wish science was more accepted and people use their heads more. Well, those who want will still wear them in crowded places. At least no one can ask you to take it off.
Yeah, so I have to say, I woke up this morning and one of my first emails was from Uber saying you no longer need to wear a mask. And I said, well, I'm going to keep wearing a mask. What's that about? Is the driver going to keep wearing a mask? You can still keep wearing masks. And I will continue to wear masks in a lot of these different venues, even when it goes away, for personal protection, but also for the protection of others. I mean, we live in a society. So if I'm going to be in an area where there are people who are at risk, which is going to be any sort of crowded indoor venue, particularly during, hopefully our forecasters tell us that numbers are at what level, I'm going to be thinking about wearing that mask. So yeah, if we were fighting so hard for the freedom not to wear masks, let's fight for the freedom for people who want to wear masks to continue to feel comfortable doing so.
All right, Vivian says cases have gone up since they started lifting the mandate, so this is a bad decision. People want to travel again, but safely. How about caring about the immune compromised instead of listening to loud mouths?
Yeah, so this is great. And just because you don't have to wear a mask doesn't mean you should take them off. So we're part of a society, so you can do your part. I wish there was a little more of that, sort of that old patriotic message, do your part. So when you get on an airplane, even if you are yourself at low risk, feel free to wear a mask when you're on that train, when you're in a crowded indoor space. And for those people at higher risk, if they're wearing those better, proper masks, support them. Be good neighbors. The fact that we are not mandated to wear masks does not mean we can't continue to wear masks.
All right, and Lainey also wanted to weigh in saying it's about time. Wear one if you want. Leave those who don't want alone. Enough of this already. It's never going away, so we need to learn to live with it. Sarah, though, is saying there's a cause for alarm because if you're a parent of a child under 5, the virus keeps getting more and more transmissible. People march back to normal, but parents are left with no support from anyone with power to get any transparency or a vaccine from the government or corporations.
Yeah, I think this is particularly tough for the under 5 crowd and the parents of the under 5 crowd. Here, everyone else is moving forward, saying we got to learn to live with the virus, and they're still looking at, hey, my child is unprotected. And we're up to almost 1,000 children that have died from COVID. So COVID's a problem for little kids, and parents want to be able to protect their little kids. So this is tough. So parents are going to have to make some tough decisions until they have access to the vaccines.
Raul says since March 2nd, average daily U.S. infections are well below 50,000, but average deaths are still over 500 on April 18th, which is 1 to 1.5% of deaths. Most of these infections are Omicron, but it's still considered mild. Despite such a high percentage of deaths, not a concern?
Yeah, there's a real disconnect here when people talk about the virus becoming mild or this becoming a common cold. Now, if you are fully vaccinated and you have an immune system that can respond appropriately, your experience of Omicron, will most likely be more of a mild. But if you're an older individual, if you have a number of health issues, if you're unvaccinated, you need a statistician to say this is mild.
All right, Max says there are many people who have never gotten COVID despite repeated exposure. Do we know why?
So we don't, but we are actually very excited, and we're studying these individuals. What is going on? I mean, this is sort of this holy grail. How can these people get repeatedly exposed and they don't get infected? And this is even from the pre-vaccine days. There are people who have had repeated high-risk exposures and they don't end up ever testing positive. We're trying to sort that out, but we would love to know what that is and love to be able to capitalize and share that knowledge.
And Fran says, why are vaccinated people getting reinfected with COVID?
Yeah, this is a big disconnect, I think, in our education about vaccines. Vaccines always have done a great job at protecting people from severe illness, severe disease, but they only have a temporary effect on protecting us from infection, right? So every year people get their flu shot, they still get the flu. Why did I bother doing that? And I always point out to them, but did you die? Did you end up in the hospital? 90% of people that die from the flu are unvaccinated. 90% of the people that die from COVID are unvaccinated. So vaccines do a great job of keeping you from dying, keeping you out of the hospital. But they're not 100%, and over time they lose their protection against infection.
All right, Kaval says both my kids got COVID in February and March, and I did not, and we're all vaccinated. The only difference is I also got the booster.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. And this will probably be the timing of boosters going forward. As things settle into a more seasonal pattern, a more seasonal respiratory winter pattern, we may all be getting boosted. We all may all getting shots in October or so, maybe a little earlier if you're going to celebrate those high holidays in September, just so we have that peak antibody, peak protection against infection during the height of the season. Protection against severe disease, that may be durable. We'll have to see what we need to do on that.
And Harry actually wants to know, are we going to get a vaccine shot every year like the flu?
So I'm going to say I hope so. I hope everyone is getting their seasonal shot and their seasonal flu vaccine as well. That's what we predict will happen. But again, we're going to wait. The science is going to tell us. Right now, it looks like those high antibody levels, that protection against infection, only lasts for a period of time. It's not viable to get a vaccine every 2 months, every 8 weeks. So we are going to have to think about timing here.
All right, and Dan says all the mandates and masks didn't mitigate COVID deaths. It only hurt our economy.
It's actually an interesting point. I'm going to disagree respectfully and all. But, there were two approaches to this, and we, I think, took the middle road. There was the zero COVID approach in China, where you really did not have a great success with vaccination of the elderly. You also did not have a flattening of the curve with a lot of post-infection survivor immunity established. Here in the US, we tried to flatten the curve. We did okay with vaccines, but we also gradually saw people who chose not to get vaccinated getting infected, getting a certain degree of immunity, but not all at once. So there was a balance here.